Comic Book Savant, man behind the mic. Welcome back to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This episode is going to be the man behind the mic, episode for July, just to give you kind of an update what's been going on with me behind the scenes and what goes into putting the show together or just being a content creator in general. Excuse me. This is going to be a little bit of a different episode. First and foremost, this episode is going to be dedicated to one of my closest friends and for a while was one of my best friends, Jason De La Cruz. He passed away on June 18th of 2021. He had a long bout for about 18 months or so with brain cancer. His body finally succumbed and he passed away at the age of 42. I had known Jason for 19 years. Was almost, if we would have made it into next year, it would have been 20 years that we would have known each other. He was someone I not only considered a close friend, but I considered family. I considered a brother, which is something that I don't kind of pass around lightly. I'm not the closest to my own family, and even my own. Well, I've rebuilt my relationship with my own sibling. I have an older sister, but it was just me and her. But and we were estranged for many years, and just recently kind of rebuilt our relationship. But Jason was one of those people that truly, in that gap, I was estranged from different people in my family that was there for me, as well as someone else you might know, Heath, which is, who I always affectionately call my brother from another mother that I do Spinner Rack Bros with. I've known him for about, as long as I've been doing a podcast, so 15, 16 years at this point. So when I use that terminology, I never use it lightly, so it was one of those people that I was really that close to. He was a part of the Facebook group. He posted very lightly. He always just liked being a part of it, of the group and different things that I did, even though he wasn't an avid comic reader. He mainly got into comics mainly because of me, because it was something that I was into. So, at times I would lend him comics and he would read, but he was a huge fan of he was more of a movie fan than he was a comics fan. But when the MCU kicked off, he loved it, and we went to go see the first one together, and we went to go see many of them together when we lived in the same city. But then we kind of parted ways, as far as he moved to one part of the country, I moved to another part. So we would I would go visit him in Chicago. He would come visit me in Texas. We both, when the time we met at a job in North Carolina that we worked together for a few years. And then I left that job and was fortunate down the road to help him get a job where I was, another job where I was working at the time. And so we worked together twice in the workforce, and our friendship just stayed consistent behind the scenes and just became closer and closer over the years. So it's definitely hit me hard, the loss. You can always, prepare for something when someone is terminally ill, and it could potentially go, either way at any time. But still, how I got the news totally kind of blindsided myself. I was, I guess, emotionally prepared for the eventual loss, but I think mentally I wasn't prepared to lose him. I think when everything first happened and I first found out that he had brain cancer, I think it hit me harder and I was more emotional about it. I knew he fought a good fight, and I had seen and had I had talked to him over the 18 months. Just due to COVID, I didn't get a chance to see him in person over that time frame, which I hate that I didn't have an opportunity to get a chance to see him one last time. The last time I think I had seen him in person was in 2019. He came to Houston and stayed a week close to my birthday to hang out, and we did a lot of cool stuff in the city and stuff like that. Um, yeah, so it's just really crazy to lose someone so close to you and that you shared so many, interests and loves when we love different loves and hobbies and so forth with. He was definitely a fantastic person and a great friend and a good man and husband, son, father. Uh, he left a wife and 3 kids behind. Um, you know, it's tough, and I, in the course of doing the podcast, over the soon to be 16 years, I've lost my father. I've lost my aunt that was like a mother to me. Um, I've lost a wife because I went through a horrible divorce, remarried and found the love of my life, and remarried. Grandchildren, his children being born, my godchildren. So many, ups and downs that you can't kind of quantify into words, and I'm trying my best to. I can't say how much he had meant to me personally, and what kind of effect that he had on my life. Again, it was really cool to find like a kindred spirit that, kind of had all the similar interests that we share together. We both love tech. We both were, loved movies and would constantly go to the movies. I don't know over the years how many movies we, saw together. It was quite a few. We both were foodies and shared a love of food, and we taught each other different recipes. He was he was Filipino, me being African American. That was a real interesting fusion when it came to food and recipes. He taught me and showed me and things he exposed me to, and vice versa. We both were huge sports fans, and we used to go to a bunch of. He was natively from Chicago, so when we both lived in North Carolina. And even though I was born in Connecticut, I lived most of my life in North Carolina. For some of you that have listened to the podcast for a long time, know my parents were both from North Carolina. I moved to North Carolina when I was about 10 or 11. I pretty much stayed until I moved to Texas, and about 7 years ago now. So I lived the majority of my life in North Carolina, though I was born in Connecticut. So I is lived there for a long time. So in that time we lived there, I happened to move at a really interesting time. So I moved right when the Charlotte Hornets were first created as a sports team, basketball team in North Carolina, and then I saw the creation of the Carolina Panthers. So since I lived most of my life in North Carolina, I'm a homer when it comes to the North Carolina sports teams. Not really into hockey, so I don't follow the Hurricanes like that. But I love with the passion, even though both teams are relatively horrible the majority of the time. I'm a huge Carolina Panthers fan, if you didn't know that about me, and a Charlotte Hornets fan. So we used to go to a lot of the basketball games together. And when they played the Bulls, the couple of times a year they would play the Bulls, we always made sure we went to the home games because where we lived in North Carolina, from the arena was like an hour and a half drive. So we made pilgrimages every year to at least catch one or both games when the Bulls would come into town, and root for our teams and just have a ball with one another. So again, this shared all these common interests, and again, he wasn't heavy in the comics, but he got into comics. And when I was still back in the day, when I was still getting my big orders from DCBS, he would always be curious, and he started borrowing comics and started reading books like like The Boys when The Boys was originally coming out. He liked certain the Dark Horse Star Wars books. Like I was huge into Star Wars Legacy. He was a big Star Wars fan, so he would read that. Um, and he just would try different things. He would try to read different like X-Men stuff. He tried to read more mainstream stuff, but he the stuff that didn't have all the backstory like The Boys and like Star Wars Legacy, because he already had knowledge, so light knowledge of Star Wars via the movies, that he could jump right into it. So I always thought that was cool, and I always kind of encouraged it, and he really got into it when we were around, and when we both moved to different cities and different states. He kind of stopped reading comics because it was just, hey, I'll borrow some from James kind of situation. um I just have so many floods of great comic book related memories of the first time we went to go see Iron Man, and how like hype we were when we came out of the theater. Like it was something that, how amazed we both were, and when we left the theater to see something that we thought as kids that would be impossible to be done, and that it happened, and we just watched it, and it was just so mind blowing seeing that movie the first time in theaters with each other, being such huge superhero fans. Even though he wasn't necessarily the most well-read comic book fan, he was still loved superheroes and the genre. So it was yeah, we had a lot of good memories over the time, and I definitely can say that he had made a profound impact on not just my life but others he came into contact with. I can say he definitely helped me become a better person uh, in many ways, and always being there when I just needed to vent, or someone just in general to talk to, which helped me through a lot of tough times. And I can't lie and say that his loss hasn't affected me a lot, because it has. It definitely has. But I've been trying my best to do as I always have when I've taken these personal, hits and losses. I just try my best to push forward, and know that that's what he would want me to do. And I know I have the support of this community. I always have. That's probably part of the reason that I felt comfortable enough to do this episode. I've been trying my best to stay kind of on point and keeping content rolling out. It might be a slight break in content for a week or so, because it's just been hard for me to kind of focus. I've tried to record some over the past few weeks. I try to stay ahead and have things pre-recorded so you don't have any breaks in content. It's just been hard. I think I've tried, I don't know, 3 different times to sit down and record before I'm sitting down recording this episode today. And it's been hard to say the least. But I felt like this would help kind of try to get me back on track. So I'm kind of behind on my work schedule and how I kind of normally, create content, for the show and whatnot. So it might be, it might not be. I might, after I finish this episode, rattle off a bunch, and you won't notice any break. If you do, then you know why. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I just felt like this was something that had to be said. I appreciate everything that you all have done for me, personally, supporting me as a content creator, supporting me as a person, supporting me as a friend. Because you all that I've reached out to, I've gotten to know through the Facebook group or emails over the years, have become friends. It's so funny. On I've had time to look back over like the past like 20 years or so of my life, and really the past 15 or so years, and it was like some of the coolest people and most genuine people I've met over the internet and message boards and chat groups and things like that, from doing the show or just being involved in this hobby that we call comics, and have met some outstanding people It wasn't just because of the pandemic, and I've seen things recently that now that things are opening up, people are like, well, were these superficial relationships that I've made with people, based on the pandemic, and I was cooped up in the house, and like now that I can go out, will those friendships and relationships fizzle out? And it all depends on you. It all depends on how genuine you were when you met that individual. Because I'm a testament to, I've met so many people that are have become so close to me, and so important to me in my life, that I met through non-traditional means, and those relationships have lasted multiple years. I met Jason inadvertently on a job. I was calling a support line. I called and I talked to him, and then one day, some weeks later, I bumped into him in the break room, and we just start talking, I think, about movies or video games or whatever it was at the time, and it turned into a 19-year brotherhood, based on a simple conversation on video games. I just happened to recognize his voice from the person I talked to on the phone. Um, so don't discount people in your life. It doesn't matter how you met them. It just matters that they're there. And I appreciate every single one of you, for giving me this platform to, express myself in all manner of ways that I see fit, and having my back through it all. But that's all I have for you guys for this episode. I just want to close this out saying, Jason, I love you. You will be missed always. And you guys take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.